Hey guys, Kylo here. So I'm in a prime and paint situation where I gotta stop and let things dry. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to make a video about the Tandem Trike. I've been asked about it. Someone commented somewhere, maybe you're watching. Can't remember what the question was. It was either about the trike or the engine. But yeah, here she sits. She still works. Everything is how I like it. Now people have asked me, why no net? Let's talk about that. A net is to keep the wing from coming back into the propeller in the event of a frontal collapse. The lines, everything gets loose and comes straight back. Now, I'm to the point in my flying now where I don't want to say I'm never going to have one again, but like during the launch phase, like if I'm having a frontal collapse, I'm doing something wrong. Like I can prevent those with the brakes. If you can't, then you need to continue to work on that. I don't let students fly the Tandem Trike. This is for my personal tandem operations for the school, you know, to teach people to fly. That's the point of tandems. I don't do them for money or funsies. I guess FedEx ain't coming here today. I use it to teach people to fly. Now, as far as the construction goes, it's stuff that I had laying around mostly. I bought the Polini 303. Now let's talk about that for a minute. It has served me well. I can't really say too much about it. In the beginning, when I ordered this engine, there were mucho problemos. People were burning them up left and right, and that was right after I placed the order. Now, when I ordered this, the Cosmos 200 was not available. That was my initial wanting when I decided I wanted to build that, and I wanted a big engine as my power plant. But these were available and flying off the shelves, apparently. So I ordered one. 2 days later, I heard all the negative feedback. I said, whatever. Well, it turns out that it was good that that happened then because mine came with the fix. And I've had no issues as far as overheating. Now, just a side note, it came with all sort of connections and thermocouples and things that you could wire into a flight deck. I don't use flight decks with paramotors. I can listen to the sound of them, check the color of the plug, get them tuned right. Now, tuning was one of the first issues that came up. Because people were burning them up, I was told, or it was recommended to use avgas if you didn't have the certain octane that they were looking for. I believe it's a European gas product, 95 octane, no ethanol. I know the octanes don't match up exactly the way they're calculated in Europe versus North America. In North America, we got avgas, 100 octane low lead. But the carburetor, the float bowl Bing style carburetor was not tuned for that. And to tune a float bowl carburetor, you got to change jets out. It's not like it's a screw like with a membrane carburetor, but you actually have to change parts out that have varying size holes. It was a cheap fix. I bought a 10 pack of these little jets. It came with, I don't know, 5 or 10 different ones. It was on Amazon. I want to say it was $20 to $30 whenever I purchased it. And I ended up going down to the smallest jet. I had to change out 3 jets in order to get it tuned properly so that it would run correctly. I was gonna say I'd crank it up. I don't want to crank it in the shop, but I can't move the stuff that I got wet paint on over there either. So we'll crank it another video, but it seems to crank. Now, that was not always the case. There's some wiring on this thing and I cannot find the fault. But in the beginning, it was making a weak spark. It would not fire off. You know, everything being primed everything primed correctly. The engine had just been running, and then we try a start. Now these are in the initial crankings. Even before we had it tuned with the carburetor, I was having ignition issues, and I never really figured out what those ignition issues were. What I did do was I unbundled all of the wiring, and then I got spark. I had a strong spark. Now it was sparking when it was weak, but it was a weak spark. You know, whether it was the E-start or whether we pull start, we would ground it out and then look at the spark, and the spark was weak. You could see it, but it was weak. We changed plugs, but when I loosened all the zip ties around the wires, it made a strong spark. And so I zipped them back up tight, weak spark. I unzipped them again, and I've sort of just got them loosely zipped together. And knock on wood, for several months, I've not had any problems with weak spark. Now, another thing that I've been doing, I've been disconnecting the coil. Every time I'm done with it, I disconnect the coil. Apparently, the coil stays energized with the electronic ignition and the fact that the 12-volt battery is always hooked to the system. Now, this was something that was described to me by, it was an aircraft mechanic told me about this. He was here at the school learning to fly, an aircraft mechanic. And there was a mechanical engineer here who knew a little bit about that as well. And both of those guys told me that they had run into this problem before. I don't know if that has anything to do with the other. I believe it was the wiring bundles. I don't know what, but something was wrong. Something was wrong. And I think I've got it where, you know, fingers crossed, where it continued to run right. I've talked about the machine and the geometry. One thing that I did do was change out the front forks. They were always too tight. There was, hey Bandit, the dog thinks I'm coming down here to give him some love. Hey bud. And so right here, there was no clearance. I gambled when I built the thing, and I designed it based on the dimensions of the tire that were in the specs. Before I got the front wheel and front tire, I built the forks, and it turned out I had about that much clearance between the tire and the bottom. I had to grind down the bolt. I had to bend it a little bit to make it fit. I just totally fucked it. So that was always like, why didn't I just wait on the tire to build the front forks? That's what I was telling myself. And so I think it was just karma or luck or however you want to call it, the stars align with the universe, that I fucked this thing in the ditch. I stuffed it nice and hard, and I bent it so that the nut was touching the tire. Okay, good. And by the next sunrise, I had a new set of front forks on this beast. These are solid and they work good. I got them on the spring connection. That's something I changed on my design. It's held up. It's held up. I don't know how long I've been. It was hot when I built this thing, and now it's getting warm again. So it's coming up on March, and this thing has been going since at least October, November. No, the grass was green. It was summertime when I started flying this thing. But it's summertime here all the time. Hell, it could have been December. But yeah, I've had no problems with the cooling system. Actually, I say that. The bracket, I caught like a slight bend in a bracket at some point. I don't even remember which one. Something had bent a little bit. I don't know. It wasn't my bracket. It came with the motor, so they might have a defect that I'm not aware of. But I shaped it back up, and I've been keeping my eye on it. And I was just thinking it probably wouldn't hurt to do like a little backup zip tie around the whole thing, just in case that starts to go foul in the future. I mean, for the price of a nickel zip tie, you can prevent yourself hundreds of dollars worth of damage. Yowzers. I stuck with the 2-blade prop. I had a 3-blade prop on it initially. That one got fucked during testing. I had some bungee cords right here because I didn't have the steel cables in yet. And so the bungee cord can't hold a line that falls off. So we fixed that. That was a design flaw. But I was eager to start testing it, and I just got ahead of myself. It wasn't a huge safety concern, but it did cost me a few lines on the paraglider. You know, it was about a $150 mistake on my part. So I ate that. That's fine. I'm still way ahead with building the machine myself financially and intellectually. Learning how to put these things together has taught me a lot about putting these things together. I've been building paramotors a long time. There's the Dirty Bird right there. A lot of people ask me, you know, where's that? It's kind of just a trophy. The object of the Dirty Bird was never to have a paramotor that I built myself, but it was to learn about paramotor geometry, weights. Also wanted to learn to TIG weld. There were several exercises that I thought that would be a good project to learn those skills and practice those skills, you know, develop the skills and learn how to build paramotors, how they work, how to offset thrust and P factor and torque and swing arm design and just the whole physics behind the whole thing. It's a big learning process. I didn't really have to learn so much building the trike here. It's done all right. It's done all right. It was an amazing addition to the school. There's a lot I like about wheels, guys. There is a lot I like about wheels. There's a lot I like about foot launch as well. But, you know, ultimately, I think if we stay in the sport long enough, we're probably all going to end up on some wheels, hopefully. I mean, if we're living right? You know, maybe we'll get too weak to want to lift one up to foot launch, but we could easily push one out of a trailer and go do our flying shenanigans. Ain't that right, Bandit? I don't think I'm going to fly the little dog. He's taking up animals. I don't know. I'm nervous enough with humans. I don't want to introduce dogs into it. So, but other than that, everything's going well. Everything's going well. The season's about to kick off. Just a note about the school. I've got spots available. Like I've done 6 people so far. This is the end of February, so I've had 6 students this year. I got a couple coming next week, but I've got spots. Like if somebody wants to come join the fun, email is always in the video below. We'll get set up if you want to come down, learn to fly, check out some stuff. Maybe I build something for you too. That's kind of it for the Polini Thor 303 as far as a 6-month, 8-month type of review situation. Yeah, I believe I actually picked the thing up in April, and I didn't put it on a machine until, well, toward the end of the year. So there was a gap there. I had training in the way. I was supposed to get it in November the previous year. So yeah, there you go. Put me a year behind on having the tandem, but I got it now. It's working good. That's that. I don't know what else I can say about it, except I've been happy with everything about the tandem prototype build for Kyle School of Paramotor. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll talk to you real soon next one. Much love, y'all. Kyle out.